this is Andrea from Our Daydream back again. Today we have two awesome guests, Rusty Drake and David Arnold from Rusty Drake and the Watchmen, which is an upcoming rock band. We speak about their testimony of kind of running from the Lord to finding God again. And we also speak about what it's like to really be in alignment with God's will. I think you're going to love this chat. So without further ado, here is Rusty Drake and David Arnold. Got it.
See, got it.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome. You guys produce your own music? I'm just curious. It sounded really crisp.
Yeah, we're in my studio.
Yeah, on Spotify. I was listening this morning.
Oh,
It's a nice looking studio.
appreciate it. It's been a lot of work.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys joining me today.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Absolutely. The honor's all ours.
I always like to start out with like testimonies. What brought you to, today opening up your Spotify and putting some music out? I just want to know your story a little bit behind the scenes. Like, who are you?
You want to go first?
No, you can go. It's Rusty Drake and the Watchmen.
Okay.
So your name's first.
All right. Well, my testimony would be a novel, so I'm trying to figure out how to make it a little condensed. Started out in music when I was 17. Just to let you know where I got my music from, other than God, but I inherited it through God, through my father. My father was a musician, and a very good one. And he's jamming in heaven now. But I grew up around music and followed my dad. And when I turned 7, I started playing guitar when I was young. And 17, I dropped out of school, thought I was going to be a rock star, and actually did really well before and I don't mean this, that I'm not doing well since I came to the Lord, but I mean, for a 17-year-old to be traveling around the country 7 nights a week in bar bands, it was something. But I always felt, and this is the funny part, I believe wholeheartedly in praying moms, because my mom, the whole time I was doing it, was trying to pray me out of it. And I used to get so upset some days. I knew she was praying. I'd call her up, say, "Stop praying."
You could feel it.
Stop praying.
Putting speed bumps in your way.
Yes.
But and I did that until I was about 29, 30. Well, one night how it happened is it was kind of dramatic. God does everything with me very dramatically. Ever since even with how I came to him, I played in a bar on a Saturday night. Hadn't been to church in a long time, but Mama's been praying. Woke up Sunday morning and I just felt the urge to go to church. And this was like something out of a movie. And I swear to you, it's the God's honest truth. You walk through the front doors of the church and the doors shut behind you like them old prison movies.
Yes.
And I could almost hear my footsteps, like you hear the guards in the prison movies. And anyways, I entered the sanctuary, and that's the last thing I remember before I woke up, on my face.
That's
in front
incredible.
in front of the altar, and I haven't looked back since. As a matter of fact, how dramatic it was is I never even, my stuff was still in the bar from the night before. Band says, "Hey, we're supposed to play tonight." And I'm like, "No, I'm not, I'm done." "Well, what about your equipment?" I said, "You can give it away, sell it, burn it. I don't want it." And I said, if the Lord wants me to play again, it'll all be there. And ta-da, it all came back to me. And so what I started doing then, to kind of speed things along, of course, I got right in church. I stayed in church, and then church found out, that I was a musician. And when the time was right, I really felt led to, start doing worship. Well, then that led into one thing after another. I wasn't just doing worship in church, but we were doing worship revivals all over the country, and
Beautiful.
and street ministry and stuff. And then to speed it up to about 10 years ago, the Lord really laid it on my heart to start writing. Well, I had penciled some stuff right after I got saved, but I was like, I'm not a songwriter, so I kind of just left it, and so anyways, 10 years ago, I started writing, and I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this stuff? And I just sat on it. I sang it in church a lot. People were really blessed by it, and lots of people tell me, hey, this is what you should do. And I kind of laughed it off, like, man, who I was, man, why would God use me?
Right.
And then somebody reminded me, well, God used a donkey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, thanks for comparing me to a
That's
donkey.
awesome.
Seems like we just talked about that like an hour ago.
I was thinking about Apostle Paul in my head, like God used Apostle Paul, and then you brought up the donkey.
He did use Paul. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
That's great.
But to bring it up to speed, I slowly started writing, and I bought some recording stuff and was messing with it. I didn't know anything about it and just started messing with it. And I put some stuff out on my own here last few years. And I knew that God always had something more for me. And God always told me that there was something more coming. Well, then that's where this happened. And I mean, and you can tell it's God, because when it happened, it was like, holy sweet Jesus, slow down a little bit, God. I can't keep up. And seriously, that's how fast this has happened. I met David through a promoter who was wanting to help me, and he was convincing me, man, you sound really good by yourself. But because what I did is I made all my own backing tracks. But when the Lord starts to move and stuff, and you want to stop a song, to pray for somebody or do something, that you can't start where you left off. You have to rewind the track. So that wasn't really, I was like, okay, God, you got something. But anyways, this promoter was saying, you really need to find some guys. And I'm like, well, yeah, help me, pray some guys. And well, then the next thing he calls me back about an hour after he made that remark and said, hey, I got this drummer in Detroit. And I'm like, Detroit? I'm 4 hours away from Detroit. How am I going to be in a band?
It's only 4 hours.
It's
only 4 hours.
How am I going to be in a band in Detroit? And anyways, so we got in touch with each other. We texted for about a week. And, but at first, I kept saying, no, man, no. I just don't feel it. I don't know. I'm praying about it. I'm praying about it. And
he prayed for like 3 months.
And then
to the point I thought he was kind of blowing me off. I'm like, this guy.
But anyways, to bring us up to when we first got together, we've only been together, what, 6-7 weeks, 8?
Yeah, it's about 2 months.
About 2 months. And we weren't together 3 weeks and we already had bookings. I mean, God just moved, and we were working on a recording, 2 weeks after we got, I just knew it was God. And the response has been, even the buzz before the music even came out, you could tell that God was in it, because there's been, the hype has been just crazy. And which is exciting, because, and this is what I'm about. It's, it's about the music, but without God, the music means nothing. God's always going to be the center of it. Otherwise, I'll lay it down again. But I know that this is God, and and then these great things are happening, like you. This is a true.
I mean, I don't see myself as all that great, but
well,
it goes with the timing.
Yeah.
The timing of things, because I think I was on Facebook, and I don't even know. I think your podcast page came up, and I thought, just we'll see what she's got to say. but it was like timing because the two singles are out today.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We got our first show that kind of kicks off our summer. Yeah, I wish it was summer. Kind of kicks off the winter tour, and then the podcast. And I thought, well, I'm sure she's backed up, so maybe like sometime within the next year. And they're like, oh, how about this date, which also happens to be the songs drop today.
I
So
love that.
right,
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the compliment. Yeah, that's a really awesome testimony. And I kind of had the same experience where I was, getting obnoxiously drunk and, found
Oh,
myself in a church. And it wasn't even like the pastor was telling me in the church, like I just felt emotion the whole time I was in there, but it wasn't necessarily that he was telling me, you shouldn't drink, like that's bad, that's sin. But it was like I got this conviction on my heart whenever I left the church. Is like I don't want to be drunk anymore. Like that's
right.
not who
amen.
that I am. And
Right.
so yeah.
It's an amazing feeling, and it's exciting, and it's kind of spooky how God works like that. Yeah, but the cool thing that came about mine is a lot of the guys, well, the dozens of musicians, dozens and more than dozens of that I come to meet and did things with in my bar days, they respect me,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't play it. I stood for what I believe in,
Yeah.
and and they would tell me outright, yeah, hey, we're excited for you, that's awesome, good for you, and we respect you. That might not be my life where it's at right now, but kudos to you. But I still witness to them, and I still just let God do it, and it's exciting, man, when you let go, let God. I had somebody tell me, you want God to work faster in your life, you have to get out of the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is getting
Right.
out of the way.
It's
And
scary.
oh, it
it
is,
really is.
and
It
It's
really
scary.
is. Oh man.
well, that blind faith,
Mm,
we're a band, like I said, this became a band, and now we're going on tour, and we're like, okay, what we gonna travel in, how we gonna eat, what we gonna pay for gas for,
right.
blind faith.
On faith.
God wouldn't open doors without providing the provision,
Right.
and I believe that with everything that I am.
Amen. Yeah. You, David?
Eerily similar. I actually grew up a preacher's kid. So I played in
Oh,
church.
one of them guys.
One of them guys. Funny, because we're just talking not long before we got on here with you, that I grew up playing in church, and at the time, like, to play in a band, my dad's like, nope, playing in church should be enough. But it wasn't, because it was always like the musical drive for me. And so I left church and went to the bars, and it was never about drinking or drugs. It was about just playing music. But you can't just do the music, you got to do kind of everything else that goes with it. So did some, nothing really national touring, just local, regional, with a bunch of bar bands. Probably laid out of church for about 5 or 6 years, but I could hear in my head as I laid down on this, well, on a Sunday morning, probably 4 or 5 in the morning, and your head's spinning. I could hear in my inner ears, like my mom praying, and you wish the music can't get loud enough, and the fan can't get loud enough, because you just hear your mom praying.
Amen.
So
that's what I heard.
yeah, I started going back and wound up actually as a drummer. I directed a choir. Yeah, it was
Interesting.
very interesting, but music's music.
cool.
So yeah, kind of
Yeah.
worked that and worked my way back into church. Got back into playing in church, and then had another couple of Christian bands. They were doing decent. And then a very fast forward, 2008, I quit music with the economy when it collapsed in Michigan in '08. I joined the Army active duty, which at the time it was a relief because I'm like, I don't have to practice. I don't have to teach lessons. I don't have to deal with singers.
Hey. Hey.
So I just, for 5 years, I was active duty down at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And then I moved back to Michigan in 2013 when one of my old bandmates, he calls and says, well, I need a drummer. I'm like, all right, well, I'll help you find one. Good luck. So we had that conversation, I don't know, once a week for about 6 months. I was sitting in church and hear songs I used to play. I'm like, man, I remember I used to put this chop there or this groove there or this there. And I'm like, kind of desire started to come back. So we kind of formed something, recorded a couple songs. And then that kind of fizzled out. And then late 2019, I decided to go to school for the studio side to become a producer, mix and engineer, everything goes along with that. So fast forward to, of course, 2020. I was slated to do a bunch of touring with another Christian band out of Philadelphia. That all got scrapped, with
A lot of people have
With-
big plans that year.
yeah, with 2020, just kind of, but it
Some
kind of
campers
forced.
and a lot of people.
Oh
Yes.
man, I tell you, but it forced me just to shut, like everybody else shut down. I thought, well, I haven't really played drums in 6 years, so I went back to the practice pads. I was going to school, Los Angeles Film and Music for the production, so I just jumped into that. Watched a bunch of videos and read articles to try to learn the mixing and the producing and the recording engineering, and that part never stops. It's just always learning new things. So one of my buddies, really close friend I was in a band with, his other band had opened for a band I was in, and he reached out. He's like, well, we're all stuck at home. I've got a blues thing that I want to do. I'm like, Chris, you're a metal guy. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. I said, all right. So I actually had all this stuff crammed in my basement. So he came up, during 2020, and we did a 12-song record, which we still have a few to release. So kind of put that out and did some touring with that band. And then it was kind of fizzling out. He actually took a music mister position out in North Carolina from Indianapolis. So again, it was another 4-hour drive for my singer guitar player. So I've never had any qualms because as a pro musician, if somebody's like, oh, we got a gig in Nashville, all right, I'll be there and I'll be there in 9 hours, pack up my drums and I'll be out the door. So Chris moved and I wasn't frustrated, wasn't really down because I knew, because as I run a studio, I've always got sessions to do, always other people's music to do, but I still want my music. I would like my band, not that it's mine, but something I could put my name on where I have a home,
Yeah.
So I reached out to the promoter from an ad on Facebook. It's kind of weird how that happens.
Yeah.
And I said, well, here's the band I'm in now. I said, can you do anything with it? He's like, oh, yeah. So we kind of talked some numbers and it just wasn't going to be feasible. So I called him back. I said, well, as a drummer, I can fill in on somebody's tour, or if they need a record cut, I've got Pro Tools and mics and everything else. He's like, all right. He's like, wait a minute. Do you know where Mackinac, Michigan's at? I said, yeah. I said, it's only it's only 3.5 or 4 hours away. He's like, I got a guy up there. He goes, let me call you back. So then he sends me Rusty's stuff and I listen to, and I'm like, all right, I can get down with this, So I text Rusty and I don't know, we sent a few novels back and forth about each other and it just kind of dropped off after 3 days. So I don't know, about 3 weeks later, I text him, I'm like, hey man, how's it going? Just trying to stay in his ear. And he's like, yeah, I'm still praying about it. I'm like, oh, I am too, but you know, it's TikTok, you know. Yeah, he's like, that's a winter's. I said, man, winter's coming. It's Michigan. So I don't know. This was July 2022. So I think around October.
Yeah, we had our first
We had our
practice.
first practice.
In October.
So it's basically turned out to be a pre-production because we had decided to re-record everything since there was going to be a band, as opposed to how he had done it before with like the backing tracks. So we go up pre-production for about a day and a half.
Mhm.
And then I came back, recorded drums, and they came down in the studio for 2 days, 2.5 days. We did everything else. And then I reached out. I'm like, hey, can we come play at your place? And we got booked out in North Carolina, the first one. And then I reached out to a place in Virginia. They're like, yeah, we'll book you. And this is before a picture, before a demo, before
That's
anything
awesome.
else. But I told Rusty, I'm like, I'm playing these songs back and there's just, God is doing something. I said, I don't know, because
Yeah.
I'm human and I can only go off, you know, what I'm feeling. So there was another Facebook post and we reached out to a gentleman named Mike Braun out of Wisconsin,
Yep.
who's got another promotion, kind of a booking agent. And he says, I love what you guys are doing. And it was the old recordings. And he was still flabbergasted how good it sounded. So he got us booked, which we'll be going to Wisconsin in February. So we got a weekend in February, the following weekend out east. And then he's getting us some other stuff lined up. So before any music ever dropped, before anybody heard a rough mix of the new stuff, like these doors are opening up without any pictures. Nobody knew what we looked like.
That's God.
We didn't even
Yeah.
have a name on it. And then I'm sitting in church one day and, you know, I still play in church if needed, but I do the live mix for my church because my pastor's like, oh, you're a sound guy. Go up there. We need to make this thing sound like a CD on Sundays. I'm like, all right, you know. So I do that. So he reads out of Isaiah about the Watchmen, and it just dawned on me, Rusty Drake and the Watchmen. So I text Rusty. I'm like, hey, bro, what do you think about this? And it just stuck. So now we got a band name, you know.
Yeah. Because my first initial thing was, you know, it's not about me, Rusty Drake, you know, which is my nickname. My real name is Russ. But everybody that knows me, good friends, everything's called me Rusty. And that's how the whole Rusty Drake thing came about. But I was feeling like, you know, if I'm doing a band, we need to have a band name. It's not about me, it's about Jesus. Well, then all these Christian promoters and radio people say, dude, you got so much momentum. God's blessing you. And it's not about you, but you've already got such a thing going. Just name the band, and it's all going to be about the band, but you know, just use Rusty Drake. So
yeah, I think we pitched out Rusty Drake with the band, or Rusty Drake and something else, and then the Watchmen just set. It was like just a light bulb.
Yes,
The light bulb went on via text.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you read a text, you're like, oh, I got it. And then sometimes you read a text, I'm like, no. So yeah, we settled on Rusty Drake and the Watchmen. So as I'm going through and doing the edits for the new stuff, which here we go again, it came out today. So
this is all pretty cool.
Give us a list. So we recorded everything, and in my head, I was hearing more than just like the drums, bass, guitar, vocals. So I reached out to a lady I go to church with, and her name's Rocky.
Man.
And I said, listen, she sings at church. And the first time I heard her sing, I thought, I'm going to have her as one of my studio go-tos. So I told her, I said, well, I would like to have you in to sing backups. She's like, me? I said, yeah. So we got everything recorded, vocals were done. So I sent her all the demos or the rough mixes. And she came in, and I can't even begin to express how God moved in the studio when she's singing background vocals. So
Amazing.
one of the songs that came out today, Better Man, which
Oh,
Rusty can go into about the meaning of the song, because it's for him. But when Rocky was singing the background vocals, I stopped and I turned around and said, we may just have to have church, because
oh my.
when
Yeah.
all they're looking to listen to this podcast, go back and listen to it. It'll all make sense. She just sings the perfect things at the perfect time. And I'm sitting here and I just put my head down at my board, and we stopped. I said, I need a minute,
That song.
just the whole, like
Yeah.
the God just came into here and it just moved. And then, we did that one, and then Get to Heaven, which also came today. We went through the other ones, and still just God was moving. There's a couple, Thief in the Night, which will be coming out in a couple months. I told her we're about to go run around this building. I said, because it's about gospel time, So all this being said, going back to growing up in church, here we are. Sounds like the three of us have had our times where we weren't faithful to God,
Wow.
but he's also been faithful to us. And we also, another plug, have a song, Prodigal Son. Now, when I was out of church, my mom would always call and tell me, read the story about the prodigal son. I'm like, Mom, I know the story, but here I sit, So if you're faithful to him, he'll be faithful to you. Sometimes it just takes, I don't know, 40 years to figure that out.
Yeah, it does.
I'm
And,
relearning every day.
It never stops.
every day, and
It never stops.
and him talking about Better Man. That's what that song's all about, is because, every new day that God gives you is a new day. And we all grow in the Lord every day. And this song just talks about being better than I was yesterday. God, you give me another day. Let me be better today than I was yesterday. And it's a powerful song. And when, like he said, when Rocky came in, it was awesome before Rocky came in and said, but that song, if you get a chance, listen to it.
I did. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That song will take you to church. I
Yeah.
cry when I hear it, and I've heard it a zillion times, and I'm just, wow. But all of my music is, everything I've written is kind of on that. It relates to, and I think that's why people are relating to it so well, and it's touching people's, because it's not written like I'm a Christian now and blah 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 blah. It's written about, man, before I came to God, I was lost, I was broken, and all the songs, every one of them speaks of that, and just about, getting to Christ and hanging on, and Jesus is coming.
Mercy and redemption.
Yeah,
Right.
like he mentioned, Thief in the Night. It talks about all about how God's going to come like a thief in the night. Are you ready? You better get down on your knees and pray. And and it's the way God give it to me. I mean, and some of these songs, I don't know how a lot of people write, but God will just give them to me. I've pulled off the road and written the chorus down first, or verse, and then I'll take it back, and I'll figure it out. But
I think
God,
that's so wild how like God will speak to you in the car whenever you're so like zoned in. Like
Yes.
when you're driving, you're like in focus mode.
yes,
Consistently. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, like this word from God comes to you and you're like, wow, like that's incredible. But I've had that happen to me so many times where God will just like hit me with something while I'm driving. And I heard so many people speak on that before. It's really odd how that happens.
Yes.
It is odd how it happens, and it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it seems it's either when you're driving or when you're asleep, because I think that's when he can get your attention the quickest.
Yes.
Because when you're driving, like you said, you're focused on driving. I got to get here, got to get there. So it's either you just kind of relax, I'm driving, or you got a little bit of anxiety going. You're like, man, I got to hurry up and get there. And God's like, nope. Let me slow you down a second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or when you're in a deep, deep sleep and you wake up and verses on your mind or somebody's in your heart, and it's like, Lord, like, can we do this in 3 hours? You know? But that's not our time, that's his time. And
Yeah.
as a drummer, I've woke up and had drum beats. I'm like, geez, like Jesus, like, can we do this in like 4 hours?
I haven't had my coffee
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't
God.
even it's still dark outside, you know.
Lord, can I have a cup of coffee first?
Or now I'm mixing, like going through the mixing process of the rusty stuff. I would wake up and think, and it's nothing that I was intentionally thinking about, but it would go across my mind like, do this or bring this up or this one word, bring it up. And I'm like, it don't, why?
Yeah.
But then when I would do a playback or send it to Rusty, and he'd be like, oh, that one part just really sticks out. And I'm like, got it. Okay. So it wasn't me thinking that, it was, God's.
Yeah.
And God really used David in this recording and mixing. This EP is it's phenomenal. Well, you've heard one or two,
Yeah.
the two songs that dropped today, and it's just, I sit back and go, wow. But I thank God for David. Like I said, before we even knew we had a real band, it just exploded. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, we were still in the process of trying to figure out the name for sure.
Right.
And all of a sudden we got bookings and this and that and everything. The music ain't even done. And yeah, but that just shows you, when God is driving, which I call it, God's driving the bus, you just got to get on and say, all right, God, this is your show. Where are we going?
Well, and
Right.
everything for us is just falling into place musically as well. When we first got together, like even stylistically, sometimes you have that weird, well, I don't like how you hold your guitar. I don't like how your snare sounds. It was just, we sat down and started playing. And of course, for Rusty, going from the backing tracks, drum wise, to a drummer with a little bit different feel, he didn't stop and say, well, play it like the record. It was,
Right.
even his son was about to fall off a chair in amazement of how like everything opened up, and there's not been like any strife of,
no.
I don't like how this feels, or I don't like how that feels, or we need to take 6 months and work on this one part. Everything is just like,
It's
just
like
meshed.
It's like David and I, and my son even said it, and in the car on the way home, he says, Dad, he says, it was like you and David have been playing together for years. I says, I know, it was, from the first note, it clicked, and I felt it in my spirit. As a matter of fact, I was holding back tears and some of the stuff, because it was like, wow, this is where it is. This is where it's at. This is where God wants me. All right.
And to go off that, we had rehearsal 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately with the drive, and then we've had a couple snowstorms, like we haven't been able to get together every week. So when we do get together, it's one of those old fashioned like 8-hour rehearsal days.
Yeah.
To go back to the old days. But he was tuning up and I was tuning up, and we just started this riff, and it was like this a whole nother idea just came out. And it's just,
Mhm.
it's really nice to feed off somebody that first off loves God the way we do. Secondly, hey, I got this little drum groove, or oh, hey, I got this guitar riff, or hey,
Yeah.
I got this vocal line. What can we do with this? Can Rocky sing back up, or who do you have? And the luxury of having a studio is there's a Rolodex of people. Like we do have a song coming out at the end of February. It's called Serve. Well, Rusty apparently decided he woke up wanting to be a country artist. So as we're playing this rehearsal, like drummer David's thinking, all right, well, this is this laid back thing. And then producer David's thinking, this song needs a fiddle. And oh, I know this Rocky would work for this, but I know this other girl that would work for this. So it's like starting to put these puzzle pieces together. When you hear this one in a month, you'll be like, oh, this all makes sense.
And seriously, when he told me, I hear a fiddle in my head in this song,
Yeah, I almost got fired.
I got mad. I'm like, a fiddle? Are you out of your mind? Well, then I heard it after it was all done and I cried. I'm like, oh my God. And then I make this remark to him all the time. I says, dude, you got to get out of my head. You're always in my head. And because he just, it's, and I know that's God. Yeah, when God puts something together, it's, we can just look at each other when we're playing, and I'll know when he's going to do us some chops on the drum, so I'll do it on my guitar. It happens. But yeah, I hated the thought. I even went home and complained to my wife. I said, David says it needs a fiddle. She goes, a fiddle? She says, you ain't that kind of guy. And I'm like, yes.
You are now.
But the same thing, when she heard the song 2 nights ago, she cried. She says, oh my God, Russ, that's beautiful. And I'm like, I know.
You can send a thank you note to my house.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of those, like, the banjos and the fiddles and stuff like that. Cause I'm just like, it's so different,
Well, yeah. Well,
so I'm excited to hear
now
it.
that you mention it, maybe some banjo.
Banjo.
Maybe we can re-record some banjo in there.
But I am a big fan of that stuff. Going back to the beginning when I was talking about my father played country music. As a matter of fact, if you know who they are, my father played one time with George Jones and Tammy Wynette, and he did a few shows with them. But anyways, so I grew up around steel guitars and banjos,
Fiddles.
and fiddles, and
we're gonna have steel in one of our songs soon.
but
Some flutes.
Yes. Yeah, see, you're there.
But you know what? David is in my head, and the thing it is David, it's like he feels my music, and like we didn't like change the melody of anything. It still has the same melody line, but he changed the whole feel of it all. I told my wife, I says, this is the first man that's ever pushed me outside my box. And but it's amazing. The stuff is amazing. He does great work here, and it's just awesome.
It was like a couple of days ago, I was on Instagram, and I had just started up this new account just dedicated to the Our Daydream show, and kind of separated it away from Our Daydream. So I only have like a few followers on there so far, or people that I'm following even. And there was a post that I was like scrolling down, which I very seldom go down through my feed. And it was after I talked to you, David, and it was Rusty Drake and the Watchmen. Somebody shouting out like they're coming out soon, giving a shout out like, hey, keep your eyes open for this. So definitely people are talking about you guys' songs coming out.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I think we were like going back to September, October, whenever we got together the first time, it was almost instant. This one was Rusty would call him, hey, this person I've never met before messaged me and they want this and they can't wait to hear that. I'm like, we don't have anything mixed.
Well, no.
It's not even done recorded. He's like, well, can you send an MP3? And I said, no. Like, no, it's not, there's nothing there. Like,
Well,
you know, in the mixing you have to edit and, you know, bring in this person, bring in that person and this and that. And he's wanting MP3s. I said, Rusty, like, we have to pump the brakes, but going way back when God starts moving, you got to
Yeah.
take your brake pedal out of the car, I guess.
and that's just the way it is, you know. Well, and I was thinking about this on my way up on my ride, or no, down,
It's only
excuse
4
me.
hours.
That, you know, just how fast, you know, God reminds me every day just how fast when you let go and let God, things come together. Like I was saying, you know, I was saying that to him. I'm like, dude, there's people contacting me from all over the place, and we don't even have any music out yet. You know, do we have anything to send them? I don't want to send them my old stuff because that's not the way we sound now. I mean, same melody, same lyrics, same feeling, but just done. I can't even. It's awesome, and but yeah, just I can't believe it, and you know, and then. And I know, like this today, you know, our music dropping today, this podcast, it's not a coincidence, man. This all happened because God said this is going to happen, you know, and you're a blessing, and thank you.
Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate
yes,
that.
you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you want to talk about heaven too while we're on here? That just dropped today as well.
Yes, get to heaven. That's my goal. And you know, that song and how I wrote that song was really weird because I'm playing guitar, but I started out a bass player. And how that song started out is we were going down the road. Well, my wife was driving, and she hates this because I'll go around the house and all of a sudden I'll go, blah, 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 blah. You know, you're always making noises with your mouth. And I'm like, it's just me. And well, after 23 years, she's used to it now. But anyways, that song started with a bass riff that I was making with my mouth. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's something, you know, so I had that going in my head, you know, and then all of a sudden, a few hours more down the road, we were on a trip somewhere, you know, God give me the first verse, you know, Jesus died for you, Jesus died for me, Jesus died, you know, so we could be free. And, you know, I was like, all right. So put that with the, you know, and but yeah, it's a powerful song. Simple songs, you know, and that's another thing that you'll hear if you listen to my lyrics. They're not complicated. They're simple, because how you going to reach somebody? You know, you can't, you know, like make it all theological, and you have to hit people where, and this is how the Lord put this on my heart. The Lord said that he give me the music the way he give it to me, because I have to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
You got to meet people where they're at. And every one of my songs is about where people are at today. They're hurting, the lost, the broken. And if you listen to all my songs, which I hope you will when they're all out, that's all it deals with. Yeah, no, sir, you know, like Better Man, but the song he was talking about, that's country now. It just talks about serving the Lord. Lord, you know, I don't want to do anything but serve you. And Lord, you've always been there. Yeah, you know, and Lord, you've always picked me up when I've fallen down. You know, so all I want to do is serve you. I want to serve you in the valley when everything is looking, you know, like it's dying and I'm drowning. But I also want to serve you on the hill.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's, you know, it's just simple stuff.
In reality, we're all going to deal with darkness. It's that lack of, you know, God, that it seems so dark. Like God really does shine a light, you know, in these moments when we're suffering, for sure.
And you know what? That brings me to a song that I was writing in my head on the way down here. And the reason I say that's because you said dark, and
Yeah.
it's called Jesus is a Light. Jesus is a light for a dark world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we're working this
Maybe.
afternoon.
Well, all I got's the name. I gotta come up with everything else,
Oh, that's a piece of cake.
but
I was just like talking about that this morning. I threw a post out. It was like how much we complicate things with God. It feels like, you know, we're weighing ourselves out against the world, and we try too hard to get that salvation when God already gave it to us, you know. And so and we overcomplicate things so much. It's
Yes,
like you
yes.
receive it, you're already wiped clean, you're already brand new, your past has already been washed away. These mistakes that you made have been done, they're gone, they're dead. And it's like, you know, now it's just like stepping into that new body, but we overcomplicate it. We make it so difficult. Like, no, we can't change, like, or we can't, you know, erase that mistake, or, you know, and we overcomplicate things, like you
Yes.
said, like the theology, like
Yeah,
we
so-
overcomplicate it.
I've had this conversation. I wish I had a nickel for every time because I could buy us a tour bus, but Jesus didn't come and go to a church and say, let me have your best preacher.
Ah,
Let me have your best preacher. Let me have your best organ or piano or singer. He went in the streets and he dealt with people. For instance, me. At times I can have a very smart, sarcastic, rebellious mouth. And that's
Amen.
what Jesus. Okay, bro. Well, that's what Jesus. I mean, if you look at Peter, he was a hothead, ran his mouth. And I've had this conversation. Can you imagine when Jesus is down by the sea and he's teaching his Bible study, and he turns around, he's like, hey boys, I'm kind of running out of space. And they're over there talking about, I don't know, the journey.
yeah.
Oh man, that one stop, I don't know, he just kept walking. And they're talking amongst themselves, and he's like, hey, you know, you help me out. And they're like, yeah, we got no problem, Jesus. And like 10 minutes goes by, and he's like, listen, why do I have to ask so many times? Because they weren't perfect,
Yeah.
and they were still human. And I'm sure he at times wanted to throw stuff at him. I told one of my buddies, I said, could you imagine if it was, and I'm clearly no means Jesus, but coming out of the garden and seeing all your friends asleep, and you know you're about to die,
Yeah.
and they're over there sleeping. I said, can you imagine if Jesus had been walking out from his prayer spot, picked an apple off the tree, and saw them all asleep? I said, I would have thrown it at him. But it doesn't say that he didn't.
No.
It doesn't say that he didn't, because I'm sure the flesh was like, is this a joke? Or what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
So to go back, you know,
Jesus didn't seem much like a softie. Like, he told you how it was. He didn't
But it
care
was-
if it
but it was
offended you or
sim-
not.
it was simple. It's like, listen, I'm going here to teach, come help me out, or you don't.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
well, are you coming or are you not? You know, like Nicodemus, listen, are you gonna go with me or are you not? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a simple, there is no, well, if you go with this one time, let's make
Yeah.
this complicated, Rusty.
Jesus,
This one time, if you go, you don't have to go the next three. No, it was, listen, do you want to go or don't
Yeah.
you?
Jesus was cut and dry.
Yes.
Yeah.
What he said is what you got.
I so
and-
loved it. His
And
ministry. Yeah.
And-
Yes.
and you know, it's amazing. And you know, and you're right, we do complicate things.
Way too much.
Yeah, you know, and I really believe, and
I'm guilty too.
oh man, I have wrote the book on complicating things with God and my walk. As a matter of fact, like I told you, I mentioned it earlier. The Lord's been sending me these people who have been Facebooking me messages or sending me stuff, or somebody will send me a video, and all of them this week said, get out of my way. You got to let go and just let me lead, because I was freaking out about, oh my God, how are we going to get all these places? You know, God is so good. He's opened up all these doors, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden these things come flooding in. Hey, just get out of the way. Just get out of the way, like you have, you know. And the other thing, you are right. You know, today things, and I'm not talking about any one church or any pastor or anything. I'm just saying that religion today has made it like it's almost impossible to serve God, because you feel like, well, I can't get saved. I can't ask Jesus to help me until I'm done drinking, until I'm done, you know, doing dope, until I'm, you know, I got to clean up first. Well, no. Jesus he says it time and time again in the Bible. He wants us where we're at. He'll meet us where we're at.
Right.
God, if God was to ever, and he won't, it says in the Bible, and we all know that, if it was to ever walk this earth again in the shape it's in, he wouldn't be in church. He'd be in the alleys. He'd be in the bars. He'd be in the jails. He would be in the hood. And you know, and it's,
How many times have you, before you came to God, said, man, I'm never going to do that again?
Huh.
And then you were right back out.
How many hours you have?
Or it's I'm surprised I'm still alive right now. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how I'm still alive right now. And so, but you know, it's that conviction that God puts on you when you listen, and like you just receive who he is. That conviction is what, you know, it's like, I don't want to do that again. And it actually like gives you the strength in order to not do that again.
Oh, exactly. You know, that's how, and that's part of our growing process. We grow strength out of our goof ups and our mistakes. Because,
Amen.
Because, you know, that's how we get stronger. Like, oh, wow. You know, because the next time you get near it or whatever, you feel that little prick, you know, don't go there. And
Thank
you
you,
know,
Holy Spirit.
exactly.
Yes.
And you know, and like I was saying about the church makes coming to Jesus, you know, and changing the world and everything. How did Jesus change the world? He loved it.
Yeah.
If you want to change somebody, change the thing around you, change your aura around you, love it.
Right.
You know, Jesus loves everybody.
Well, he went amongst the sinners.
Yeah.
He went amongst the sinners to save them. Remember when he did go to church, he grabbed a whip and tore up the tables. So read into that how you may.
Yeah. I guess he was a radical.
Yeah.
I've watched renditions of like movies played out where it went purely off of the scripture. And like some of the times, like I would laugh so hard because I'm like, that's like exactly how I would put it. It's like church and things like that. I love church. I'm an advocate to get people into church, but at the same time, it's the same things that I would beat myself up for being too outright with my truth, the way I see it to be to people. And I'll be like, Andrea, why'd you have to say it like that? You know, like, why'd you have to be so, you know, bold with that? Couldn't you be a little bit softer?
Right.
But then whenever you listen to Jesus speak, he didn't really have that subtlety to him. It was like, I'm going to give you what like you need to hear. And if that hurts your feelings, well, you know, I'm here to, you know, be there for you. But Jesus was somebody that was like, told you straight up, like, this is how it is.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, right. Like the woman at the well, when he's like, yeah, so you've been married 5 times. And oh yeah, by the way, the person you're with now, they're not even your husband.
Right.
Could you imagine like her stomach just dropping?
So bold.
She says, because I can imagine if Jesus walked in and called me out on most of the things I've done in my life, I'd be like,
oh,
like, ooh, how do you know all those things? But then he showed her, well, you can go ahead and drink this water, but what I have to offer like, yeah, you messed up. You're currently messing up, but I'm here to offer you something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you've been married 5 times. You're with somebody now who I know what you just did because, well, I'm God. So there's that.
Right.
But
Right.
I couldn't even imagine what she stood there and thought
Well, right.
as he's reading her life back to her. Never met her, never seen her,
Right.
but for that, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, he basically called her out on everything she'd done. But then at the
Yeah.
end, he says, hey, here's a choice. You can
Yeah.
drink that water out of the well, but what I have to offer, you'll never thirst again.
Right.
You know,
And I have to reiterate something in case somebody takes it the wrong way. I was not bashing churches or past.
Right.
Church is important. I love church. I love being in church. I'm just saying that, church is a Christian's fueling station. You go in
Yes.
there, you get,
So-
you go in there, you get pumped up, you get lifted up, you get the junk off you, that you've had on you all week. And then you go back out and get people to come back into church.
Yeah.
And that's, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So I just wanted to make sure that what I said earlier about, churches are, I have nothing against churches.
We all have our insufficiencies and but we all have that goodness too, and I believe that is just the same truth about church.
Mhm.
It's got its insufficiencies, but also it's got a whole lot of goodness. And so I had come up with a quote, and I actually have a shirt coming out soon. It's like, religion doesn't judge people, Christianity doesn't judge people, people judge people.
People
So it's
judge
like
people.
these,
Woo!
so it's like these same, concepts, like people will judge the church for this reason, that reason, but it's like we all have these insufficiencies inside of ourselves, that we all have it. We all
We
have
all
good and
do.
bad.
Yes.
Yeah, we all have good and bad. So
Yeah, you're right. It's always the other person. And even if we as humans, when we go into church, oh, is somebody gonna say, will somebody like my tie? Will somebody
Yeah.
like my shoes? So
Right.
even from a non-Christian, non-church related, like we already as humans have been judged or commented upon by somebody else, that you already go into a situation thinking, well, I just got
Yes.
my hair cut. Are they gonna like my
Yes.
haircut? So when you
Yes.
go into church, it's
Mhm.
magnified because,
Mhm.
well, so and so saw me smoking last week.
Right.
Are they going to judge me for that? Well,
It's so true.
first off, they probably got their own skeletons.
You got
So
your wall up before you even walk in the door, just
exactly,
thinking that they're gonna
exactly.
judge you. Yes.
So
Yeah.
as humans, we need to be guided. So listen, I got my own faults. I know my faults. Let me worry about me. You worry about you, and let's just go serve God.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just let me do my thing. If God convicts me for this or that, then it's for me. It's not
Right.
because I'm not going to get convicted because you do whatever it is you do. It's
Right.
because so don't put all your things on me.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. It's people have, even not out of church people, have judged people so much that there's already a preconceived
Yeah.
judgment.
Mhm.
Like, oh, well, I'm wearing a red sweater. Do you think somebody's gonna say something about my red sweater?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
listen, just do what you do.
Yeah.
And to circle back around to the music, it's what we're putting out is what we decide to do. If people are gonna like it, if they're gonna be drawn to it, then they're gonna be drawn to it by God or the style. And if they don't like it,
Right.
then hit the next button.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's always going to be something to say though.
Yes.
And I notice it more so in the rock genre because, there's those churches out there that are just like anti-rock music still to this day, and Christians are the same. But I mean, ultimately it's whenever people like you that do rock music and you're just giving them that love, even if they're condemning the music, well, it's going to turn the way that they see rock music around, like, oh, like God really is working through that. It's
Yes.
not what the church had told me that it was.
Right.
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 So what's coming up?
Well, what's coming up? Of course, we had the 2 songs today, Better Man and Get to Heaven. Came out on all streaming services. Also, they can be purchased at our website, www.rustydrakewatchman.com. You can get those. We also just launched our merchandise.
Yes.
We have some very plain but very amazing looking shirts. So you can go pick those up. Those just launched yesterday.
Sweet.
Tomorrow, we have our first show of the tour. It's going to be in Detroit, actually, at the Detroit Gospel and Jazz Cafe. It's a sweet looking little place. I've never played there myself. I think we're having the great Terrell Bean sitting in on keyboard with us. I believe he's played there a few years ago. Really good crowd, apparently. Good atmosphere. And then February 9th, we pack up for Neenah, Wisconsin. We're playing at Word Fellowship in Neenah, Wisconsin. Doors open at 6 for that one. And then
The 12th.
the 12th, we are in Beloit, Wisconsin at the Overflowing Cup. I think they have quite a following there, so that should be a great time. The following weekend, we're playing Portsmouth, Virginia.
The 17th.
And the 18th, we are in China Grove, North Carolina. And then March, we plan to finish up the CD back in the studio. April, we are back out. We are tentatively booked in Chicago, April 15th. We have a couple other options coming open for that weekend. April 11th, we're out in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and we're working on something. I think I should get it confirmed this weekend for the big town of Sheboygan, Michigan, up by me. So you're gonna have to drive.
Yes, I have to make that long 4-hour drive. So we have a lot of things. A lot of, I call them administrative things. Everything's got to be done before the fun things come out.
Yeah.
Right.
The easy part for me is setting up drums and playing.
Yep.
The work is, the mixing, the distribution, making sure our merchandise is on point. So yeah, there's a lot of hands involved. So I'll put a plug out if we do need somebody for social media. So if anybody catches this podcast, just shoot us a message on Facebook, or we definitely need somebody to help us out with our social media. So there's that. Help wanted.
And but yeah, and we say that we're gonna take March off, but if everything goes the way it's been going, March will be booked by tomorrow.
That's the
Right.
possibility. No, we've got 3 more. An instrumental we wrote that's it's really fun that I think we're gonna knock out. And then we have another 2 songs that we're gonna do just to try to catch the vibe where we're at right now, because as with any band, when you go through a stretch of a tour and take some time away from the studio, when you get back to writing, your vibe and feel is going to change. So we're trying to catch what we have right now, because I feel that by the end of summer we're going to have a little bit of different twist to what we've got going on. So
Hopefully for the better.
oh, for sure.
Oh,
it'll be
for
the
sure.
better.
Oh,
It'll
sure.
be for the better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about a few ideas, and yeah, it's definitely gonna be for the better. And as we grow, like we said, I've been playing drums 30 years. Rusty's, I don't know, 100 years on guitar or something.
Close.
So the experience is there. So it doesn't take that much time to get where we're at. But when we start writing the next group of songs, like I said, hopefully in the winter will be
100 years.
so hopefully in the winter we'll actually be doing stuff that the four of us have written together, as opposed to taking what Rusty's done and putting a little bit of a twist on it. So I'm anxious to kind of see where things will go when it's a full band.
Doing
Hey,
some,
I've got this idea. Oh, I've got this drum groove, or the bass player. Right now we've got Daniel McKinney coming in to play bass. He's a phenomenal player, grew up playing in church. If he throws some stuff down, and we just don't know where it's going to go the next, it's very exciting
oh,
to
it
think
is.
about.
It is.
But for now, we got 3 more we want to get knocked out. So we got this current vibe with the music. So there's that. There's a lot going on. So,
But good stuff.
Yeah.
and we have this amazing podcast. So
Thank you. You said you said you did have a website, right?
yes,
Yes.
Can you let us know how we can find you in order to book you?
yeah, for sure. So if you go to the website, www.rustydrakewatchman.com. At the bottom, there's the email, rustydrakemusic@gmail.com.
Yep.
You
All
can
right.
also go to the Facebook page, which is
Rusty Drake Music.
Message us there. Contact information's there. We're getting our Instagram up and running. Rusty Drake Watchman, I believe, is the handle.
I thank you so much for joining me, and I think you guys are awesome. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having us.
Oh, absolutely. And you're awesome.
prayers for your journey, that God continues to elevate, and you can bring more souls back home.
Yes.
That's what it's
our
all about.
objective.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. All right. Well, blessings, and I'll be getting in contact with you guys soon.
Sounds
Okay.
great. God
Thank you.
bless.
God bless.
All right. God bless. Bye.
Bye.
If you like this message, please hit subscribe, because we have an awesome guest coming up every week, and I don't want you to miss out. God bless. I'll see you next week. Bye.